Okay, let's get started. First and most important, welcome. We're absolutely delighted that you're here. We've been looking forward to this. Great turnout. We have a lot in common. We're all experiencing very similar situations and challenges. They've cut my time short. I'm a minute into my 3 already. We take our role in this community very seriously. We think it's an important one in what's going on for your community newspaper to be responsive and committed to our recovery effort. And we have a lot in common because of the things that we've experienced, and we're going through some new experiences ourselves, but we're really delighted that our press facility held up okay. We're tearing the offices down on 11th Street, but building back right there. And I don't think when we first got started with this, I was at the office with some of our colleagues, and we were planning for a little bit of a different day, but I think what has been very revealing is the long term and the work that's to be done over an extended period of time, because even that day when we looked around, we're like, okay, we're going to be fine. A couple months from now, everything will be right back to normal. But it is a daunting task in some regards, but this community has rallied to show a lot of passion and enthusiasm, and I don't think there's any doubt about what the future looks like. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people will look back at this time and recognize what went on here and what happened was something really special. So our community leaders, I know I'm looking out here because what's behind me is a lot more intimidating than what's out here, so I'm scared to turn around with these guys. But I do have the opportunity tonight to introduce my colleagues who are up front here. I'll start with Aaron Dion, who is our editor of our digital franchise. Katie Landak has that same role for print editor. And then, what's your name again, sir? Who let you in? Mike Casalas, our executive editor. And we're going to get started. I think we're going to be here until 8 o'clock. And we want to thank you again for coming out and giving us this opportunity to be a part of this special evening tonight and begin a conversation that we think will be very educational and also very productive. So thanks again for coming, and we really appreciate y'all being here tonight, taking this time. Give these guys, hey, we know how hard they've been working. So thanks.
Hello, does this work? No?
Here you go.
Hello. So I'm going to start by letting each of our leaders who is so gracious to come out give their kind of 2-minute elevator pitch of where they're hoping to see their communities or the schools go from here. I see that Greg Wernicki of Panama City looks like he wants to go first. So, he's staring me down.
I was just about asleep. No. I'll tell you, we can go back and we can rehash all the different things that have happened over the last 2 months, but, we don't want to look in the rearview mirror. We want to look forward. So what are we doing? When I sit up here with all my cohorts, I have employees of the city of Panama City, and I have employees of my funeral business. I have friends that live in Lynnhaven, that live in Callaway, that live in the beach, Springfield, Parker, and if they're hurting, I'm hurting. We're hurting. They are just as important as the citizens of the city of Panama City. So we have to speak. I say that because we have to speak as one voice. We've established a long-term recovery task force that we will all meet together so that we will get all the wants and needs of every one of our organizations together so that when we go speak to the federal government, when we go speak to the state government to get the funding that we so richly deserve after this horrendous storm, that it does not fall on deaf ears, that we're all speaking the same language, that we're all asking for something. I don't want to survive and some other area of the city or some other area of the county not survive. We all have to survive because we're all in this together. We all took a tremendous hit. Some of the things that am I almost done?
You're almost done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Keeping this moving.
Okay. How much time?
A minute.
Okay. All right. Some of the things that we absolutely need to do from a standpoint is get the economic engine of the county running again. All right. How do you do that? There's been $464 million that's been loaned to businesses and people from SBA. It's imperative that we put a timeline on our insurance companies. I know CFO Petronas is here tonight. I'd like to see them have a time frame of, let's get payments to everybody by the end of January. Let's make sure that everyone that has filed an insurance claim gets their money. Now, yeah, there's going to be more things that they come in and they dig into your house and find other stuff that has to be done, but let's get those payments in people's hands. From a FEMA situation, there was 1,600, now we're down to 1,300 and some odd trailers. There's 50 of them here. I want to see them all in by the end of February. I want to see people that don't have housing in housing. How can they function without being in their principal place of abode? So it's imperative that we set goals and have all of these people follow those goals that we set for them so that we can move on in the future. Thanks.
From there, I'm going to pass it off to County Commissioner Griffith, since he does chair that task force.
Well, actually, I don't chair that task force. Commissioner Carroll does. He, the vice chairman of the commission, chairs that. But thank you to the News Herald. Real quickly before we start, I'd like to point out some of the future leaders of America right here. We've got some Merritt Brown Middle School students who are actively involved in the process. So while we've got a great group of adults that are going to be involved in all this through the long term, it's great to see some youth in here that are engaged as well. So from the county's perspective, I would echo everything that Mayor Wernicki has said. We're all going to sing from the same page. This long-term recovery task force that's being chaired by Commissioner Carroll has different silos underneath with all these elected officials that will be represented. The community will be directly involved with input. We want the community to be involved so that the directions are taken that they want us to go in. I think some of the goals in the beginning are short-term and long-term housing. We know that, as the mayor said, we've got to push FEMA. We are holding FEMA's feet to the fire, if you say. We meet with them, if not every other day, at least once or twice a week, to push them to engage this at a much faster pace than what we think is what they're going. We would all move at a much faster pace. I know when I speak with all these folks that I work with and have worked with closely for the last 9.5 weeks that they're all passionate about the recovery of their city and this county. We will all do everything to make it the best that it can be. And I believe when the next big one hits, and there will be another disaster in the Americas in the next, whether year, 5 years, 10 years, they're going to look to Bay County and they're going to say, you guys did it right. You made some mistakes, but you did it right. And how did you do it? And how did you do it so quick? And that's the goal, that will be used as an example around the country, how to recover from a natural disaster. Because when the dust settles, we're going to know this is one of the biggest to ever hit the Americas, and we're going to come out on top. We got a lot of progress to make, but we're going to be positive through it, and I think the people will be very proud what the future is in store for us.
That's certainly what we all hope for. And now I'm going to keep going this way. So, Lynnhaven Mayor Margo Anderson, what are you hoping for your elevator pitch of what you want Lynnhaven to look like?
First of all, I'd just like to say good evening to everyone. Welcome. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone's feeling a little better than they were 2 months ago. It's good to see all of you here this evening. My perspective is a little different. In looking at the Bay County Task Force, I was unable to attend the first meeting. I was out of town on some business for the city, but I do hope to attend the next meeting and to, of course, be a part of that big picture for Bay County. But on the other hand, I'm a huge proponent of home rule and the municipalities, and each municipality of Bay County has a different way of dealing with the issues that are affecting them in the strongest ways. I know that while we do have similar issues that we can attack as a county and as a large government, each of our municipalities had different issues to come about in the storm, and I know that each of us is unique in a different way. So I believe that it is extremely important, in order for your voice to be heard, that you work very closely with those officials in your own small city. Our city has about 20,000 people in it. And quite frankly, that's all the people that I have time to answer cell phone calls from. And so that's who I deal with most on a day-to-day basis. On the other hand, on some of the recent fun things that we did to try to bring back some normalcy, like the toy giveaway, the Thanksgiving dinner, the Christmas concert, all of those kinds of wonderful community things that brought us together, it was a joy to be able to share and to share what we had. And in the beginning, to share our supplies, the things that we had in Lynnhaven with those around us that we love and care about as well. But I think that in the midst of having a big county task force and each of us bringing our piece of that puzzle together, we must not forget that each of us is a unique city and that each city has unique needs, and that as the mayor of each city and the council of each city, we have the most time to deal individually with you on a one-to-one basis, and that's where we meet the needs of our residents, is when we can talk to you on the phone, find out what your unique need is, how we can help you, how we can help your family. So a little different perspective, but as we enter into the holiday season, I look forward to being a part of the task force, to being a part of the big picture of seeing this recovery. I have great hope for the recovery, and today I know we had a beautiful oak tree planted in Lynnhaven, and there was so much symbolism in that tree for me. One of the things that's bothered me the most in Lynnhaven, and I'm sure it has bothered you too, are the ecological needs. Our county is rich in nature, it's rich in beauty, and that's why people come to visit us, and that's really the core of all that we have here that we hold near and dear. And it's just gut-wrenching for me to look and see all the trees gone, and I know it is for you too. And when I see how our ecological system has been uprooted, the bayous are full of trees, the birds have no place to go, the animals are uprooted, the whole system is out of balance. And so while I think the economic and the FEMA and all of these things are very important, I think we have to, again, look at the uniqueness of each city and what we have to fix as far as that very delicate nature of the ecology for this county to be able to come back and be what it's always been, the world's most beautiful beaches, the beautiful trees, the beautiful nature, and the things that make us who we are. Thank you very much.
The next Ralph, we've got Mayor Ralph Hammond of Springfield, who I had the unique honor of finding amid his destroyed buildings directly after the storm. So where are you hoping to take Springfield from here?
Well, it's going to be a long, first of all, good evening. We've got a long challenge in front of us, but we're looking at it. We already see the light at the tunnel. We're like all the other cities. Everybody's hurting. The citizens, the employers, the employees. And we got to look at each individual. I love the task force. We got a lot of things we got to do big countywide, cleaning our drainage. All the trees are blocking our drainage. If we have severe rainstorms like we do in February, we're going to have another disaster with flooding. So we got to work with the county, work with the state, work with federal to get them cleaned up. As far as Springfield as a whole, we're a very strong community. I've seen neighbors hugging neighbors that hadn't talked to them in 13 years. We're coming together as a group. I've got a fantastic team that work in City Hall. We've relocated. We lost 90% of our government capacity. So our funds are going to be there. We're going to have to really work hard. Thank God it was the start of a new budget year. If this would have happened in July or August, I think a lot of the cities would have been really in trouble. But we're going to, with the new budget, we're going to have to reallocate things. Also, we got our insurance money's going to come in and hold us. We're working on plans to make a complete new city complex, which will encompass everything on one lot. And that will be located at Springfield Nursery at 11th and Transmitter. We was blessed 2 years ago to get that property and buy it. We had looked at 8 to 10 years down the road to build, but Mother Nature and the Lord changed that idea, so we're going to do it a little quicker. But those funds that we're getting for insurance will be able to carry us through till we start getting our FEMA funds, the reimbursement. But we do have to work with the county as a team, with the state, to go after projects that affect us all, not just one group, but we all get together, we all have meetings, and we got to support each other. And I'm putting it out now to the commissioners in the county, anything that the city of Springfield can help with, we'll do that. We've had helping hands come in from Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. We've had mayors, all of a sudden I had 5 mayors from Louisiana, and boy, that was a trip. At one time, tell me how to do this. But they was Katrina days. Now we're in Michael days, and a lot of laws have changed, a lot of rules have changed. But their ideas and their support was fantastic. our churches, our faith-based groups have stepped forward so many times in so many different ways that you can't thank them enough. We was out giving food and water as far as the city, but when you get a church involved, you touch many, many people, where I can only do 3 or 4 at a time. But I see a good future for the city of Springfield. I think Bay County and all the other cities are going to come through this better and bigger and stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mayor Pam Henderson of Callaway, what is it that you're hoping to accomplish?
Well, Callaway is good evening to everybody. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the News Herald for having us all. Looking back, considering that we're just about 9 weeks post-Hurricane Michael, I think Bay County and all of the cities within Bay County, I think we've done a tremendous job. I think we should give ourselves a big hand for as far as we have come already. And obviously, I can't disagree with anything that any of the previous speakers have said. We do all need to work together, but at the same time, we each need to retain the uniqueness of our separate communities. Callaway, some of the things that we are focusing on, first and foremost, one of the things that's very important is housing, because without the housing, you don't have the workers that can help us in the recovery. Before the hurricane, back in the summer actually, and the Bay County Chamber is a big player in this, but we had contracted with Next Site to assist us with economic development in Callaway. Because we already have them under contract, this was a good opportunity for them to step in and start helping us. So, we have already had several developers come that want to construct single-family housing. The announcement that Tyndall made a short time ago has also had a major impact on this. So people are coming. The housing is going to be there that will give the housing for workers to move back into the area. That will also hopefully encourage people that have left to come back to the jobs that will be created. Next Site is also working with, we've had a lot of destruction out on the east side of the county. So they are working at pairing people with the desire to sell maybe their damaged property. They don't want to rebuild and go back into business, so they're looking at pairing these owners of the damaged property with people that do want to buy and develop in this area. So they're trying to make those matches to help the economic development. So jobs are going to be available, housing is going to be available, Callaway is going to come back, just as I feel this entire county is going to come back. We are going to be better and stronger than we were before. The blessing for Callaway, we did have a 10 to 12 year plan based on the wants and needs of the citizens and the vision of the commission and of city staff for the future of Callaway. Well, Hurricane Michael has accelerated and expedited that plan, that now we're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan. So, and some good things have really come out of this. Our staff, we had a large percentage of Callaway's employees lost their homes in the storm, but those employees were there the day after the storm to do what they could. They started, they were clearing roads and just assisting citizens, doing whatever they could to help the city. They have really come together as a family. We've also been able to put on several, kind of citywide events. We did a Thanksgiving dinner giveaway. We did a Christmas in Callaway event. We've done these things that has really given everybody a strong sense of community. Plus, it's given people some time to take their minds off of everything that they're dealing with and to have a little bit of enjoyment through the holiday season. I think those kind of things are important. But as I said, Callaway and all of Bay County is going to come back better and stronger than it was before. So thank you for your questions, that you can help us all get to that point.
Thank you so much. So going all the way down, Mayor Alcathy, thank you for making the trip from Mexico Beach. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm overwhelmed by sitting at with the group that we have before us today. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming. So what are you hoping to have happen as Mexico Beach rebuilds from the ground up?
Well, we're the smallest city in the county, and we're the most isolated from mainstream Bay County, and that's and we like it that way. So we have a lot to do. 80% of our city is destroyed. We have roughly 1,200 residents. We have roughly 2,700, or had 2,700 homes and businesses, and we now have roughly 450 to 500 habitable structures in our city. So needless to say, for a town our size, we have to take small bites. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. We have been one of the most, I guess, inspirational things that has happened for me in our city is just the outpour of volunteers and help that have come, and I'm sure that all of us can have experienced that. You think you don't know that people don't know where you are. It's just a heck of a way to find Mexico Beach, is to be all over the news every day as the sort of ground zero for Michael. But looking forward, our path is really simple. The footprints of our city is quaint, unique, charming, a character and a style and a quality of life that we will, to the bitter end, defend. I've said it before, and I think tonight's appropriate to say it again. Our quality of life will not be for sale, and we easily could be something different with the white sand beaches, gorgeous sunsets, and the Gulf of Mexico as our backyard. So to protect what we have is our number one goal, and that will remain even in the devastation of our city. It's difficult to think of us as pretty and nice, but, you know, Tide had that commercial where it says we're coming back new and improved. So that's sort of what we're going to do. We'll look fresh and clean and different, but the spirit of our city will stay strong. We're proud to be part of Bay County, and the task force that's talked about tonight I think has a lot of merit, but for us, we will not be, we're just going to work at who we are and stay true to who we are, and we're going to make sure that as we build back, certainly we're not going to have some, you know, the old cottage style look that Mexico Beach had for all those years will be gone. But then the new codes are going to change some of the things that we look for. But needless to say, no matter what we look like when we get through in the years to come, some things just don't change, and that's important to us. And so we're going to stay like we are and be proud for that.
Thank you so much. So right next to you, we have Mayor Mike Thomas from Panama City Beach, which has kind of a different hurricane story. You were not hit as hard, though there's still plenty of blue tarps. So what are you guys hoping? How do you hope to rebound from what's happened?
Well, one end of the island got hit pretty good. Not as bad as when you cross that bridge. We were very much blessed, and I don't feel bad about that. I appreciate it this time. It leaves us with the opportunity to help and do whatever we can do for the rest of the county. I was the county commissioner for 12 years, and I learned a long time ago that if we all don't do well, no one community is going to do good. We need to all be together in where we're heading with this. Our first problem is going to be money. Same as the reason most of you are here. You need money to build back. And when you leave Bay County, everybody else is not in as big a hurry as we are. I've been to every meeting that you can go to and listen to. These guys and ladies have worked very hard to do everything they can do. I have not seen anything, and I was on the outside of most of this because I've lost 2 businesses at the beach over the years, different hurricanes. I never had my house. I never lost a shingle. Not one shingle in my entire 70 years at the beach have I ever lost on my house. So I could go home at night, and my wife and I, whichever one at the time, we had a normal life and did very well. And it changes your whole concept. When you go downtown, it is amazing the people, their businesses are tore up, their houses are tore up, their children's houses are tore up, and they're mad as hell. I mean, people are not in a good mood right now. People, it's dangerous when you look at the way people feel. This has been the most horrible thing that could happen to Bay County. Nowhere else have they experienced winds like this and come through the way we have, and there was loss of life that I think is horrible. But for that number not to be bigger than it was, to me, is shocking that we didn't lose more people. We are truly blessed here, even with the problems. I think everybody will build better. The code showed they worked in places. And I think you're going to see the entire community be better. Be patient. They are absolutely doing everything they can do. And it's easy for me to say that. These other guys, everybody gets beat up every day. The beach is fixing to stand back up. And I don't do Facebook. I don't have a Facebook page. I do not want to be miserable with your opinions of me. But the truth is, we have got to go to work. I hear that people talk about the beach as being unsympathetic because we're trying to get back open. 45% of your sales tax comes from west of that bridge. 60% of that ad valorem tax comes from west of that bridge. We have got to make money for this county to come back. And I love Bay County. I love every end of it. I was to see Al right after the storm. I talked to him. I've been through every community out there, and I am so proud that I don't have to do the job they do. But I am standing here to tell you I'll help them do whatever they need to do, and so will everybody else on the beach. Every one of my commissioners are here tonight, and they want to help. We're ready to do that. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Mayor
I
Rich
get to
Musgrave
follow
from
my
Parker.
friend Mayor Thomas.
You get to follow Mayor Thomas.
Thank
I hope you have a good
very
joke.
much. I'm so thrilled. First of all, thank you all for coming. You really represent the heart of this community because you're interested in what all the various communities are doing. Parker, of course, sits at the foot of the Tyndall Bridge. And so we have a vested interest in what goes on in that base, and I would suggest we're missing an organization here tonight. And that's really Tyndall Air Force Base. And I think the great news that you've heard from them, which has implications on our economy, on housing, on everything else, is due in great part to some wonderful work done by some very dear friends of mine that work for the Bay Defense Alliance. So I'd like to give a shout out right now to Glenn McDonald for all the work that he did in helping to bring our F-35s here to the base. So we've always maintained a very close relationship with the leadership of the base, and so we do a lot of partnering activities. So when I heard the announcements about the base was going to be rebuilt, and especially the announcements that we've heard just over the last few weeks or so, that was great news for all of my citizens. We have about half of our population are retired military and active, so they have a great deal to do with all the services that the base has to offer. We're a small city, so we've actually made some great progress in debris pickup. I mean, that's one thing that's near and dear to each and every one of yours heart. We learned a new way of driving around this area now. It's like one-lane roads. You got to be courteous to the people coming the other way. So we've accommodated that and did it very well. So our debris is about 3/4 done. I'm proud to announce that. Just have a little bit to go. Now the hard work comes as the other mayors have said, start going after FEMA for reimbursements. And that's going to be critical to development. But we see this as an opportunity to rebuild better than ever using the new building codes, using your land development regulations, may do some modifications just to make this a better overall place and much more resilient to any future disasters that may come our way.
Right. And then last but certainly not least, we have Superintendent Bill Husfeld, who has a unique job in that you don't have a single community to take care of. You have the children of all of them. So how do you handle the rebuilding of the schools and coming back from this?
Very carefully. First, I didn't know Mike was 70 years old. Did the rest of y'all know that? Yeah, okay. No, we appreciate all of you being here. And again, another shout out to my Merritt Brown students that are here. I see these students in math competitions, science competitions, history fair competitions. They're always involved, and so I appreciate seeing them here. But, listening to everybody, I just want to thank everyone for how we all pulled together. And I think my biggest concern are the people, the younger people, the little people, and then my employees, which I think is what we all hear. And I know we heard stories about some of them going up there and their houses were destroyed and they were there working the next day, and the same with our school district employees. It's been an amazing journey. And the only thing I would say is I heard someone say that people are angry. I think people are hurt more than angry. I think that anger builds up from being hurt many times, and I know there's frustration. People keep saying 6 months this and 6 months that, and we all know it's not going to happen in 6 months. I look for improvement every day, and I think that's what we're seeing. Our numbers are going up every day with our students, but we're worried and focused right now on the mental health of our students and our employees and trying to help them prepare for the next day and the next day. I believe that, and again, this is a repeat, we have got to lean on the state and the federal government to assist us. And I know that they hear our needs and our wants. We've just got to continue to be at the forefront to remind them. I just think that's essential because we don't want to let this opportunity we have to rebuild what we all want. Mayor Cathy, I admire everything you've been through. You're the one that's took the brunt of it for us, and God bless you. And I just think you have a wonderful community, and I appreciate the way you've handled the devastation you're dealing with, along with the rest of us. But to answer your question, what do we want to look like? And I wrote this down so I wouldn't miss anything. But I think we want vibrant students coming out of school with either a willingness or desire to do one of several things. Go to college, go in the military, or be career prepared. And I think the opportunity for career prepared this is going to enhance that, because we're going to have businesses that are still looking to come this way. And so our challenge is to prepare those students to walk into those businesses and take those jobs that are needed. And I think that opportunity is going to present itself with our goals and plans to rebuild. I think the second most important thing is a stronger fiscal responsibility in coordinating with our partners. And what's been amazing through all this, and most of you don't see it, is that I've known most of these ladies and gentlemen for a long time, but we meet now and talk now more than ever before. And that kind of coordination and fellowship and working together is going to be important for us to come back stronger. And I think that's one of the big keys for me, is to keep working with them so that we can, instead of duplicating services, we can be stronger and better physically and per child. I deal with two things. I deal with people's money and people's children. You want to get somebody's attention, mess that up. And so I think we have a unique opportunity here, even though we're in the middle of a devastation that none of us wanted. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much. So leading up to this event, we solicited questions from our readers through our Bay Asked, We Answered series. We've read them, we've analyzed them, we've tweaked them slightly to make them a little more coherent. And so we're going to be asking those tonight. You guys have talked a lot about the future that you want. These questions deal a lot with housing, as I'm sure you know, employment, the hospitals, and just keeping communities' character. So before we get into talking about how you guys plan to craft that, I'm wondering what you feel is the greatest threat to your recovery in your communities at this point in time. What is the problem that if you don't solve it, it will gridlock you and you won't be able to move forward? I see.
I'd like to start that one out.
All right, you start.
It's called debris.
Debris.
Until we get the debris handled, cleaned up, moved out. That's one bad thing about driving the streets. You might wake up good, feeling good, you headed to work, you see debris. That brings you down. I believe once we get the debris off the streets, everybody's going to feel better. Start looking at homes instead of piles. And it just makes sense to get the debris out. Besides that, it's one of the most expensive parts of a storm. Whether it's a hurricane, a flood, a fire, debris is what kills cities, makes people move. So the faster we can get a handle on debris and get it moved, I believe we'll start the new year out right.
Does anybody else have a different idea?
Yeah, one comment about what things that concern for us as Mexico Beach is our stamina. We're small, number of employees, small staff, and we're in a marathon, and I'm concerned whether or not we haven't finished the first mile, much less the marathon, and we've got a long way to go. So I'm concerned, can we stay the course with our people? And second of all, I'm concerned about the money. Mike mentioned that, and I keep thinking, in the first week after the storm, I met a president of the United States. I met the governor twice. I spoke to the director of FEMA and his deputy director. And I'm concerned if they're going to remember where we are. And I'm concerned when they say we want to help you, well, I'm going to hold them to that because I took them serious. And I think everyone at this table did that. But we can't go this alone. And if they showed up just for shaking hands and taking pictures, that's not what I think of as help. So we need money. And when we're being asked to look at a $50 million loan for the city of Mexico Beach to support ourselves till we get some funding, that's a big deal to us.
Absolutely.
Can I say?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. That's one of my two main things is, getting some advance funding from FEMA to help people bridge that gap between maybe what they have in reserves, what they're going to be reimbursed. I think that advance funding is critically important so that people don't have to take out loans and float bonds. And the other thing that I see as an issue is just workforce, not even necessarily because people have left because of not having a home, but everybody that you talk to, everybody's got so much damage to their home, they either need to completely rebuild from the ground up or, they need roofers and plumbers and electricians and whatever, and there just aren't enough out there to go around. So it's going to be a long time before people are actually able to have their homes repaired just because it's spread so thin. Everybody you call, it's like, well, I'll put you on my list. Well, it may be 6 months before you get to the top of that list and can get anything done. So, but definitely the funding is going to be critical, but I also think just the lack of having those skilled laborers to make these home repairs is also going to be a problem.
I would say some of the county's challenges, I think, our medical community. I think with the loss of both hospitals for a short time, we know Gulf Coast is back almost fully operational, and that's a blessing. But BayMed is still shut down. With the amount of layoffs we've had and the long road to recovery at Bay, I think that's a concern for all citizens of Bay County. You don't want to get very sick right now in Bay County. And I think housing is a critical need. Affordable housing fills the workforce. Small business is what makes America go round. That is 80% of America is built on small business, and we have got to get employees a place to live so that businesses that are ready to reopen can fill their workforce. There are still places that are open that cannot operate at a full capacity because they don't have the staff. The staff cannot work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. So those are things I think as a county we will be critically watching the hospital, especially Bay, to make sure that they return to a level of service that we had prior to October 9th, or at least what we had on October 9th, and to make sure that here in the future that we have those medical services established as well as the housing initiative for our workforce.
I would agree with almost everything that's been said so far, but I think two critical things could happen that could immediately change the face of where our progress is headed. One is that you can't fix something if you're not willing to call it what it is. This was a Category 5 storm. It's time for the government to label it what it was. That's the first thing. And that's not just my opinion. If you've been researching this, and I think that you're going to see that title coming quite soon, because I think there's new evidence coming from NOAA. This was the first storm that there was ever a hurricane watch plane in the eye as it made landfall. I think there's going to be crucial evidence that's going to come forward. I think you'll see that happen. And then the second thing that could happen, and with all due respect to the President of the United States, so grateful to him for coming here and for that opportunity to meet him and speak with him. He was warm, he was kind, he was forthcoming with some of the things we needed immediately. But what he could do right now that could change the face of this is he could write one letter and FEMA would have to do 100% reimbursement to this county. That's all it takes. So I'm saying, and I hope it goes forward, I hope it goes viral, Mr. President, give us the 100% reimbursement. It's a letter from you is all it takes. And that's what I say could help us move forward.
My fear a week after the storm was top-of-mind awareness. You know, you had, a dozen people got murdered in Pittsburgh. Then we had the fires in California. Then you have earthquakes. We have 60 disasters average per year in the United States. So a week after our storm, I was talking to people and they were saying, is that Mexico City, Mexico? Is that Panama down in the, South America? And it's like, what are you talking about? We got carpet bombed. And Margo's right. This was a disaster, okay? It was a catastrophic disaster. And top-of-mind awareness with our representatives in Tallahassee and at the federal government level to let them know that we are still suffering and that it is not going to be the taxpayers of Bay County that pay the difference that FEMA doesn't pay, okay? It's not up to y'all to have your ad valorem go through the roof to be able to subsidize this storm. The help has to come from the government, and we have to stay on both of those entities to be able to let them know that we had a disaster, a catastrophic disaster. This was like Baghdad, but the trees were the missiles. And regardless of how we built back with all the trees that we had, even if it was built to the standards of today's standards that are now in place, a lot of these new buildings, if they got hit by trees, were torn up. So my fear is that they will forget, but we will not let them forget.
Rich.
Go for it. Everybody has said funding and reimbursement, and I don't know if you really understand how critical that is to all of our communities. On a proportionate basis, we all have just insurmountable obstacles looking at us as far as funding goes. And quite frankly, the process is badly broken. I mean, where we have to submit detailed documentation to FEMA and then wait for them to approve it, then they send the money to the state. And Department of Emergency Management then has all that, and then they ask for additional documentation from all the municipalities in the county as well. And then if you don't cross a T or dot an I correctly, sometimes they'll send it back, and you've got to send it back to them, and it just further delays it. So we're in a position where, for instance, in the city of Parker, our whole annual budget is $5 million. Cleaning up the debris by itself is going to be about $6 million. So, I mean, you just can't write a check for more than what your annual income is and expect to hold on to that and wait months and maybe even years for reimbursement. So reimbursement policy, and that's something that could be done at both the state and the federal level. We ask that we have some intervention on that, and we'll, as Mayor Wernicki said, we won't let them forget who we are and where we are.
Thank you. Mike Thomas, Bill Husfeld, would you like to contribute on this point, or?
I'm looking at it a little different from where we are at the beach. I know Bill doesn't believe I'm 70, but I am. I've had 2 shoulders, bladder cancer, quadruple bypass, and it's all been done here. And to me, the biggest thing during this whole thing was medical. I agree with Griff. To me, it's going to take a long time to get the rest of this, and I believe we'll get money. We could not have had a better governor at the time we had this storm. I don't care what party you are. There were people on every interstate and every road waiting for the wind to quit where they could get in here. That man did a phenomenal job. And he got elected because of Northwest Florida. That's why he was here every week or two. You saw Rick Scott in Panama City. And it's been that way with DeSantis. He scraped out a victory, and a lot of it happened right here. Those people, I believe, are going to help us. And I believe when it gets to a point where we need that pressure, I think they're going to do it. But the medical capabilities here really scare me. When you stand at the beach, anywhere you are, there's a helicopter flying over. We're sending people everywhere now to get work done. And a lot of people don't make it to those places. That is, from the beach standpoint, that's the thing. We don't have the catastrophic damage y'all do. But medically, it's scary.
So I'm going to follow up on that. We've had 3 people submit questions asking if this will be the moment that a hospital is built in Panama City Beach, a full hospital, not just an emergency room. Do you feel like that is something that needs to happen in this community?
I have begged for it for 20 years. I think we're going to wind up getting something. When Baymed moved an emergency room on the beach, they told me they had to have 13 insurance patients a day to break even. The first year they were on the beach, they averaged 53 a day. And a lot of those patients went to Baymed. They sent them to Baymed when they left there. And I know that sounds selfish to people that don't have a roof on their house, but I'm the beach mayor. I'm going to do the best thing I can do for Panama City Beach. And if I can help get a hospital out there, I'm going to carry the flag. You can bet on it.
One thing I want to add, though, and we all meet with the businesses that come in and look about coming to Bay County. One of the first 2 questions are hospitals and schools. And so you're right about the hospitals. I don't care where they build it or which ones open up when, but that is a big need because we know it from seeing our employees that need them and also our students that need them. And so that is a huge thing that's going to be an economic driver as well as taking care of the health and well-being of all our citizens.
So now that we've looked at challenges, let's start looking at where we're going from here. So one of the things that's happened is that we've had a lot of people leave the area or talk about leaving in the area, particularly after Baymed left, or temporarily. We don't want to say left, but after Baymed dramatically cut their staffing, people started leaving. We have a lot of advertisements for nurses in Dothan now that have come into our market. That's all my Facebook ads are. So what is being done to help encourage people to stay in this area or come back to this area if they left immediately after the storm?
I will tell you, the hospital was faced with some difficult choices. There was no good answers, but I will tell you they're doing the best they can to take care of the employees that they laid off. They were paid through February 4th, and they're getting their insurance through the end of February. They've been paying their employees since the storm hit, giving away fuel, food, support, all they can. Very difficult decisions, and I feel for the staff and the administration over there. I believe that, reverting real quickly back to the question of a hospital on the beach, I think one day we will see a hospital on the beach. The population has shifted, and it might speed the timetable up. I think getting people back into the community, I think the hospital is exploring options with those layoffs to keep them in their Ascensions window, whether it's a Dothan, Pensacola, Port St. Joe Hospital, or in the southeast. I think a lot of the medical professionals have opportunities to do traveling jobs, 12 weeks on, 12 weeks here, 12 weeks there. It pays very well. I would encourage those people to please stay in Bay County. The future will be bright. It will be a great place to live, work, and play in the future. The next year will be a challenge, but I think those folks that the hospital administration and their staff is doing everything they can to work with those folks that are jobless now. As far as the county is concerned, we're going to create an environment that is ripe for growth. We always have been a very development-friendly commission, and I think we're going to continue to be. We're going to do everything we can to encourage business to come to town. The Economic Development Council has not stopped. This hurricane has not stopped them one bit. They have several groups in the pipeline that are actively pursuing positions or placements in Bay County that are high-paying, good wages. It would benefit everybody. The rising tide floats all boats, and I think the Economic Development Council, with their securing of GKN last year, is just the beginning. They are working tirelessly, and I think in the future you're going to see some announcements that will bring some excitement. We all need some good news, and I think in short order we're going to start being able to make some announcements that will help the workforce as well.
I'd like to go next. I was a trustee at the hospital for 18 years, so very familiar with it, and there is no way that they're just going to exist with 75 beds, okay? And so their plan is to continue to renovate the hospital and get it to the point that they'll have to bring all those employees back, because this time of year, they're always full, okay? Gulf Coast is always full. Bay Medical Center, especially now that Ascension has it, a lot of people, that is their primary care doc, okay? That's where they go. They don't have a primary care physician, so that emergency room is always full, and they had between Gulf Coast and Bay Medical, they had some 975 people working over there just a few days after the storm between the two hospitals renovating them. Not only did the hospitals get devastated, every nursing home, okay, every daycare was gone. And so we were having to ambulance people, take them out of town from all the patients, all the inpatients. All they could do is triage somebody and send them out. But they are working feverishly there to get that place up. Now, we are always looking for nurses, okay? You never have enough nurses. And they will work, and hopefully Ascension will keep enough of them in their network. But I feel sure that by the end of the year, that when they have all those beds back online, we will have our healthcare system, because it's, as Bill said, it's defined by our city, our community, our county is defined by its healthcare and its education. So I feel sure that they're going to build back.
So beyond healthcare, how else are you working to keep people in Panama City or get them to come back to Panama City?
Well, from a housing standpoint, and that's one of the things that we've been working on. We bought, the city bought, I believe, through CDBG, 250,000 we spent on 27 lots to build affordable housing, 1,100 square foot houses that will probably sell for somewhere around, $100,000. And we got to have places for people to live. Working on FEMA to be able to keep our workforce here. All right, we've got, with the school system, right now they're looking at about 65 to 70% of the elementary school students are in school. The middle school and high school students, 85 to 90% are here. So we have to provide, so as I said earlier, that economic engine has to start so that, all the SBA loans go in place so businesses can reopen so they can employ people. If there are places to be employed and there are places for people to live, they will come back.
Eddie, specifically what we did was we worked with the base command right away to make sure they knew we were serious about opening up Tyndall Elementary. And we did open Tyndall Elementary back, and that was a big plus to those families that work out there. Most parents, and I know the parents know this, most parents today want their children, especially if they work, to go to school near where they work, not necessarily near where they live. And Tyndall has a large population that work there, drop their student off at the elementary school there, and then go to work and then pick them up on the way home. So that was a big commitment we made to get jobs in here, to let the military know and Washington, D.C. know, and the command know that we're very serious. Tyndall Elementary is going to open because we know it's important to you. Because, again, it comes back to schools and hospitals, and it's an economic driver.
Absolutely.
I'm sure I'd love to weigh in on that. The two things I think that we're doing probably right now are really three to try and keep our residents here and to bring those back that may have left. On day 7 after the storm, we made the decision to lift all the ordinances in our city regarding motor homes, RVs, fifth wheels, that type of vehicle, that people will be able to park those in their own yard or on their own property, and they could also allow a friend or relative to do the same on their private property. for the next 24 months while they repair and rebuild their homes. So that was a great move. They're all over Lynnhaven right now, and people are living in these vehicles while they work on their homes and try to repair them. Secondly, and I'd love to just mention his name, Ben Jonke, our EDA director in Lynnhaven, immediately visited all of our small businesses. As everyone knows, in economics, that small businesses are the backbone of not only this county but the entire country. So the mom and pop, the individually owned businesses are those that we have to keep here to be able to keep our communities thriving, as well as our corporations. And so he's visited all of them immediately. We've had several meetings with all of our business owners meeting together with the Small Business Administration. We've offered incentives to businesses to come to Lynnhaven in the old part and to the CRA, that we would give matching funds to them and also incentive funds to put into their business if they come in and build there. And then thirdly, the thing that everyone needs right now is a break from the devastation. So we're trying to, we've cleaned up our main park in Lynnhaven so that people have a place they can come and gather and just have a picnic or let their children play on the playground. And we've got the second park almost cleaned, and then we're working on the others right now. But to have those spaces without the debris, as my friend Mayor Hammond said, to have those clean, beautiful spaces where people can just go and take a breath is essential in keeping people here. So those are three things that we're doing in Lynnhaven.
So as you guys rebuild, one of the questions that we got from readers was about gentrification and if people would still be able to afford to live in their communities once the community is nicer. So I'm going to actually have Al Cathy start with that, because I think Mexico Beach is particularly concerned about being in a very vacation-centric area and still being able to afford their homes once they're rebuilt.
That's definitely a concern for us. I said at the beginning that who we are is important, but we also know that those houses that have been there for so long and are generational homes, they won't be. Some of those folks that have been passed to most likely may not want to go back with the new codes and the expense of what it's going to take. So some of the things that I think our city's going to have to rely on is that we do not, and I said this earlier but I can't repeat it enough, that we do not allow ourselves to try to be something that we're not. And we have our LDR's been in place since '91. Our comp plan, we don't plan to change our height or our density or our setbacks. So I believe that those controls are there to ensure that what is built back will be as quaint and it's going to be higher. We know on the south side of the road where there's hardly any homes standing now that we're going to have some changes there. But we're satisfied that if we stick with our LDR and the comp plan that's in place, that what you see there will be something that some people won't be back, but we, or at least I do. I believe there'll be a line of people to take their place that'll be satisfied to have what we have there. So from that standpoint, we'll definitely be a little different looking, but I don't think that the feel of our city will change.
Excellent. Ralph, this is an issue that you have fought with a long time, of people being in Springfield, having their homes, the parents leave, the house stays, and eventually you're dealing with a rundown home. Now you have a chance to rebuild completely. What are you going to do to make sure that Springfield is still a living community?
Well, we're going to start out, and we've had several discussions with anybody from Bay County GIS to the property appraiser. The big issue with being in a military area is they come in, they buy a house, they get transferred, they keep the house, and they rent it. Our renters are leaving because they're not going to do the repairs. Well, it might be 18, 20 years since this family that bought it has been back to Bay County. There are no intentions of coming back. So we started a program a couple years ago where we go in and we contact them. Mr. Trash supports us real well. We tear the home down. The only thing the homeowner does is pay for tipping fees or dumpster fees. And the Bay County recently has jumped in and waived all the dumping fees. I foresee a whole lot of that happening, but we got the program on hold right now. It's a program that I do, so it don't cost the city anything. The big deal with us right now with keeping our citizens is getting temporary quarters. We're low to moderate income. We got a few that's got some good money, but they can't go out and buy a travel trailer or a fifth wheel or anything else and put in their driveway. FEMA has really, as much as I can say good about them, has dropped the ball on housing. When you come in and tell somebody that's riding a bicycle to work or to get food, hey, we're going to put you at Fort Walton Beach, because there's no place available in Bay County. I understand now that the beach is opening up, but between Gulf Power and all the folks that are coming in to help us, they're telling the folks, well, you go to Fort Walton Beach or you sleep in your yard. That's not much of a choice. So most of them head on out of town, and until the workforce gets better and stronger, I foresee them coming back or replacements coming back. But FEMA's really hurting us as far as temporary quarters.
City of Panama City. Well, you have 1,300 people, I guess, were eligible for FEMA trailers, 900 of them within the city. Out of those 900, 700 of them are renters. So our demographic isn't going to change much, okay? And so I don't have that fear in the city. We have 75% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch. 66% live in subsidized housing. A lot of those places are going to have to be rebuilt. So as far as the gentrification, I don't see that being an issue in the city at all.
I will tell you, last Thursday, the Florida Public Housing Corporation had a meeting in Orlando, and they approved $30 million for hurricane-affected counties to build, you call them Section 8 or HUD-type houses. There are developers standing in line ready to grab that money. And that after the first of the year, I think you're going to see a large application process to access that $30 million to rebuild some of the apartment complexes we've lost, plus some new ones. So I think there'll be a large push from not only outside the county, but folks within inside the county that have some business acumen and some capital stored up that they can get into this process and speed it up. And $30 million can go a long way with that type of housing.
With the new housing coming, is there thought about changing the codes to try to prevent something like this from happening again?
Well, the building code is set by the state of Florida. We can make subtle changes to, as Mayor Kathy pointed out, density and setbacks and height restrictions and that type of stuff. But the building code is set by the state of Florida. There are higher wind code restrictions in South Florida. I could see us falling into that category now, where we might see some tweaks by the state to. We saw winds that no one has ever seen in the state of Florida. Hurricane Andrew is what changed the building codes in 1992. That's what made them stricter. That's why we have hurricane clips and the like. And I think you might see some subtle changes that way. But I also think we're going to be recategorized, and so local contractors will have to build a house to a higher wind load. But the state of Florida is really in control of the Florida building code.
Okay, so next question, Bill, we're going to start with you. So with schools being one of the biggest draws to live in a community, as we pointed out a few times today, what needs to be done to help you come back? Like, what partnerships are you looking for from the cities to help the schools rebuild stronger? And do charter schools and other types of schoolings factor into the equation of how we do schooling here now?
It's housing, and everybody's talked about before. We're down, as Mayor Wernicki said, number-wise. We think it keeps growing every day. I think that providing a place for families to move into that's safe and appropriate. I think that if you drive down 11th Street, you go in Parker, Callaway, Lynnhaven, Mexico Beach. I've driven everywhere trying to see. I don't know where the students are living, to be very candid with you. I mean, it's just so many of the housing areas that many of our students live in are decimated. So the partnership, to answer your question, is to continue doing what they're doing to get the housing back, and what Commissioner Griffith just said, that about the HUD grants and those kind of things. That's going to make us stronger. But again, we've got to be patient. I know no one wants to hear that. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's, I think, understanding the patience part is the hard thing for most people to understand. I can't say enough about the partnership where I've known Greg since we were in high school, and I think we've talked more in the last 63 days than probably the previous 40 years. The partnerships and the respect we have for each other is already working and helping us move forward. We're going to look at, and I said this at the last school board meeting, we're going to have to consolidate some schools. We don't need as many schools right now. We're going to put some aside for later, like we did with West Bay years ago, and open it back up as we need it. It doesn't mean that school's bad. It doesn't mean that community is not bad, has done anything wrong, but we have to be fiscally responsible. And what that means is we have to have schools near capacity to function the way we're supposed to. And so that partnership you're talking about with the cities is making sure they understand if their schools are impacted by that, that is not a ding on that city. It is a positive step towards us recovering. And charter schools are a part of that. We have a great partnership with all the charter schools in the area. And they're a part of it. You can just go down the street here a few blocks and you'll see that charter school is decimated like so many other buildings.
We've always been really close with Parker Elementary in our town. And today was just one example where we partnered up with Florida Blue and provided 500 toys that the kids could walk through and kind of do their own little shopping thing. And then I understand Wednesday another group has come in and they're going to give every one of those 500 kids a brand new bicycle. I don't know how they're going to get them home, but they're going to get that bicycle. So the principal there speaks very highly. He says, any day the police chief will be walking through, the fire chief or the mayor. We hold that school dearly, and we understand some of the issues and problems they have to deal with. But as I've said before, the adults here, we get so hung up in all this recovery, and we get, twisted up around the knees, and yet we forget that these kids have been adversely impacted as well. They've gone through trauma, and we need to remember them. And so today was just one example of giving them a little hug and letting them know we love them and they're okay and everything's going to be better.
Okay, so this next question came directly from a reader. So, the obvious destruction aside, I believe one of our area's bigger challenges will be the availability of workers for the many entry-level jobs, such as restaurants. How can the business community get any data or any information about population migration? And what's the plan for economic recovery? Specifically, how are we going to create jobs and encourage businesses to move in and invest? So how are we getting the businesses back?
Well, I could address some of that, I think. The federal government has decided that there is a portion of Panama City that is considered an opportunity zone. One of the things that I did right after the storm was make an appeal to the governor and to the president to extend that opportunity zone from the edge of Franklin County all the way over to, not saying anything bad about you, Mike, but to the bridge, to the highly affected area, so that we'd have investment potential. For example, look at Tyndall. If we could have private enterprise go in there and help them rebuild their housing, the opportunity zone affords people to be able to reinvest the capital gains that they would have on the sale of stocks back into capital projects and defer the gains. I mean, it's a very, very big deal. So one of the ways is to have that extended, because I would love to see all of us profit from that within the whole region, not just a portion of Panama City. So a tax incentive is one thing that will really help.
Margo?
Similar to what I'd said before, by offering some incentives to I still think the small business community is essential in bringing people back, and that goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about before, the housing. I would like to go back a little bit, though, to the gentrification question that you asked as well, because many of the housing developments and the HUD housing and some of the old apartment housing that was destroyed by the storm was really substandard. It had been there so long that people were really living in those houses in substandard conditions, and if anything, the storm may have something good may have come out of that, because in the midst of that destruction, those particular developments are going to be rebuilt. I was looking at the one, there's one in Lynnhaven, that I'm looking at it knowing that will never be habitable again, and knowing that there will be something that's better and safer and cleaner and nicer. But then again, we go back to that same question, have those people that lived there move because they had nowhere else to go? And then that goes back to that same question that Mayor Hammond brought up and some of the other mayors. The ball has been dropped for temporary housing. And so many of entry-level jobs, those residents have rented their housing, and they've had to move on because they had nowhere temporary to live. And so in this long process, I've met great people. Certainly the governor's done a great job. I think he'll do a great job as senator. I think the new governor coming in is going to do a great job. The FEMA representatives I've met, but somewhere something is broken. The FEMA regulations are outdated. There are people who work for FEMA who are not doing whatever they're supposed to do. There's a broken cog in this wheel someplace that it takes 72 hours to get the application processed, and then it takes weeks after that to qualify, and they say only 2 weeks. But if you're living in a tent and it's 32 degrees and it's raining and you've got 4 children, 2 weeks can be a very long time. And so in this great United States that we live in today, you cannot convince me that we don't have the wherewithal, that we don't have the funding, that we don't have the people who are smart enough to fix this. And when these disasters happen like the one we've been through, which is probably, again, the most catastrophic disaster that's happened in a very long time, if ever, that's even in recorded history, it can't be that much of a rocket science project to bring in 1,000 trailers. How difficult is that to do and hook them up? That's my question.
If I can follow up on her statement about the FEMA trailers. Now, I know City of Callaway we submitted a proposed site in East Bay. There are 170 pads they're trailer ready. They could put 2 trailers on each pad. It has taken FEMA a long time to go through the process of approving. There has even been a statement made that, well, they're too far out. Now, they're talking 11 miles out. At the same time, they're putting people in hotels in Destin, but they can say 11 miles is too far out. So FEMA's logic does not always make a lot of sense. And as related to the other issue about bringing businesses back, as I had mentioned earlier, Nexite, who the city has been working with, they are trying to pair up the property owners who do not want to rebuild with developers who want to purchase and build. And that's how, they're trying to pair those individuals up to bring businesses back to the Callaway area.
I'm going to talk about a subject I have very little knowledge of, and that's technology.
Here we go.
Our world's becoming a computer world, technology. The worst thing I heard was Verizon. Nobody worried about their house after the storm. They all put down Verizon. I wasn't too happy with Verizon. I wasn't happy with Comcast. But things happen. And one thing I think that's going to become good for Bay County and technology and bringing higher paying jobs in is supposedly Verizon's going to come in with 5G. I've got 4G, so I have no earthly idea what a 5G is, but supposedly there's only 5 cities in the United States that are 5G. That's going to bring a heck of a lot of different technology as far as computers, communications, everything into the area. And I don't know how the commission feels about that, but I think it's going to be Gulf Coast Community College, FSU, we're going to grand slam them with new people. So I think that's going to be a good benefit for Bay County.
Another tool in our tool chest. It gives a selling point to, as Superintendent Husfeld pointed out, when new industry comes to town, they ask a few things. How's your medical care? How's your education? How's your quality of life? And this is just another added bonus to that when they, if GKN, for example, which is a very highly technical aerospace company, this is exactly the type of thing that they look for. And Mayor Hammond's right. We'll be one of 5 cities in the country. We will be the smallest by a huge margin. These cities, Sacramento, L.A., Indianapolis, millions of people, and here we are with 180,000 people in our community. And obviously, Verizon is hopefully committed to rectifying what was a horribly poor response after the storm. I think we all know that. Touching on FEMA real quick, if we'll go back to the trailers. I've met with them tirelessly. I think if you asked any FEMA representative I've met with, they probably don't like me. Their issues are, they tell us that every storm they face, which I have a hard time believing, it's usually a 70-30 split. 70% owners, 30% renters. Well, our community is completely inverted. 70% rentals, 30% owners. As we know, if you live in an apartment complex, I'll use Stanford Point as an example. If you live in Stanford Point and you qualify for direct housing, you're not going to be able to pull your trailer in your parking place at Stanford Point. It's not possible. So what they do is they develop group sites, as Mayor Henderson was talking about in Callaway. A group site is a site with many 180 pads, as she said. The bureaucracy with FEMA is impressive, and I don't mean that as a compliment. That is we have tried tirelessly to try to expedite their process. We have asked for data. Getting information from FEMA it's horrible. It's terrible. The communication has become better. It has become better. The last meeting we had just several days ago was the best meeting we've had in 9 weeks. I will tell you that. They have committed to us that they will have, if not all the trailers in place, but a great 95% in place by the end of February. So that is obviously not quick enough for us. We'd like to see them, as Mayor Margo pointed out, that I think all of us, if we were tasked with that job, we could have had it done weeks and weeks ago. And that's what we've been trying to do, is speed up that process. FEMA doesn't want our help, apparently. They're going to do it on their own. We're going to continue to push them, and we stay on them, I promise you. We stay on them as best we can. But the process, they love to use the word process. Well, it is horribly cumbersome. It is nightmarish. Anyone in this room could do a better job than what FEMA is doing. I promise you that.
So the next question that we've gotten repeatedly, I even got calls about this one, is considering what actually Rich Musgrave pointed out of how expensive the storm is, and we've all talked a lot about how challenging the FEMA process, some people are wondering if some of the smaller communities, in particular Springfield, Parker, Mexico Beach, are considering unincorporating because of the burden financially. What is the message of that? And if that were to happen, will some of the larger communities, such as the county and Panama City, be prepared to receive them?
I think there are some real unique characteristics to the individual cities that are here today. As Mayor Cathy said, they have a kind of a whole different feeling out in Mexico Beach, and they want to keep that. Most communities that have their own police department, fire departments, you have community policing, where the police officers know the residents know the police officers, and that's something that more difficult to do in a larger metropolitan area. But the one thing I've always advocated is what I call functional consolidation. And that means certain functions that maybe individual cities can't support on a full-time basis, like planning, like purchasing, like contracting. And those are things that we would have centrally and have all the cities take advantage of that and share their costs down without having to take it on individually. And that way they can maintain the separateness that we've got today that we all hold so dear, and yet still drive some efficiencies through some of the back office operations.
I need to answer that because my constituents may be listening to this. So it's
You do.
important that I answer this question.
Is.
No is the answer for Mexico Beach.
Ralph?
No.
No?
We got a strong city. In order for any of that to happen, it'd have to be taken to the commission. The commission vote to put it on a referendum. The people vote to do away with it or whatever. Everybody in here looks at each other. We all look different. We are all different. We have our own attitudes. We have our own particulars. And I think that's good for Bay County. If we all looked alike, we all thought alike, it wouldn't be a happy world. So no, we are not looking at that.
I'm going to stick on this question just a little bit longer and go back to Rich. So when you're talking about possibly reimagining how the city works, essentially, is what it sounds like, to streamline some processes, how would that work, and what communities would you be partnering with to make that happen?
One that's willing to become a little more efficient and save some costs. But, I mean, private business does this all the time. In many cases, it's just called outsourcing. And I don't know that we've really explored that to the degree that we could. There's one thing that we do all outsource, and that's our building inspection. We all have an independent group outside, but most of these communities all contract with. So I'm just taking that, what we've already done, and just taking it another step with some additional functions beyond that.
If I could jump in there, I'm sorry. I am totally in agreement with Al Cathy down at the end, because as much as I like all of my colleagues at Bay County and the county functions, the cities, it is so important that the cities retain their identities, and there is funding to help these small cities, and I urge each of them to retain their identity. The League of Cities and several other organizations are there to help with home rule, how important that is. The best government is the government that's closest to the people, and the further you get away from that, the less say the people have in it. And once you start letting one part of your government be mainstreamed or streamlined by the county or the state, you lose a little piece of that. And I've been very vocal about the one part that we have given up. It was given up before I became mayor, the building inspection, and I've been very vocal about wanting to bring that back in-house since I've been mayor. So I'm very much about home rule. I support Al Cathy. I support all these mayors, and I certainly respect Mayor Musgrove's opinion on the streamlining. But from everything that's within me, I say hold strong, cities, because you can retain your identities and we will get the funding, and you can stand alone as a municipality, no matter how small.
Well, I'd like to add something to that.
Go ahead.
The bigger the government, the less you see them. The city of Springfield, I've been mayor now for 5 years. I've had an open door policy. I've been there every day of the year. I work Monday through Friday. I'm out there Saturday, Sunday. I'm available to whoever wants to come in and talk to me. You don't have to call for an appointment. You don't have to go around somebody else to get to me. Most of the mayors here are available to their citizens. And if you get too big, you're never going to see them. It's like looking for the governor. The governor's got a big territory. You're not going to see him every day of the week. So I think the small communities, like Mayor Margo said, we've got to stick together and keep our own identity and be there for our citizens and be out there with them.
With published cell phone numbers.
Mine is.
Katie, I would tell you that the county is committed to helping all these small municipalities, whether it's planning, offering advice, whatever. The county is committed to helping them out. They all have their own identity, and we totally respect that. And that is a ground-up type effort if cities want to consolidate. That is not something the commission will ever decide unless it's done through the citizens. But we are committed with our staff to help any of these folks in any capacity. So,
I think my opening statement said that. when we had the comfort stations that we had in Panama City, we invited everybody in any city or in the county to come to our comfort stations. So any help that any of the surrounding cities want, we're there for them.
So another question that we had from readers is they want to know what they can expect at the first anniversary of Hurricane Michael and the second anniversary of Hurricane Michael as you guys are trying to rebuild. And also if there's any notes that you guys have for other communities for when the next storm comes. So I'm going to go down the line again for this one, and I will start with Pam, and then I'm going to have questions that we were asked during this event through our Bay Asked, We Answered platform.
Well, unfortunately, on the first anniversary, I don't know if the debris should be picked up by then, so that should make a big difference. I don't know, just because of the shortage of people, contractors and roofers and whatever, I don't know if we're going to see a tremendous difference in building. But by the second anniversary, yes, I think it's going to look greatly different. By then, even if we don't replant trees, I think, because I've noticed it's so crazy, the weather we've been having, the plants just seem to love it. I don't know what it is. I have rose bushes in my front yard, and they are just loaded with flowers. It's the craziest thing, because with
their hormones get out of whack. Just a fun tidbit about plants. Their hormones are freaked out by the storm, so they bloom. Well, it's really weird.
It is crazy, but in the trees, what's left of the trees, even if the tops are broken out, the trees are they're coming out green. So I think we're going to be surprised and see how a lot of that does come back. So, some of that by the first anniversary, yes, I think we'll see some things like that. By the second anniversary, I think we are going to be well on our way to what the new normal is going to be for Bay County. I don't think we're ever going to look like we did before, which can be a good thing in some ways, can be a bad thing in some ways. But I think in 2 years, we're really going to see our new normal, and we're going to be well on the road to recovery.
What's Springfield going to look like?
Next year, this time, on October 10th, first of all, my wife's not going to have a birthday, because her birthday was October 10th.
So is Kaz's birthday buddies.
So we canceled that. I think...
I hope not permanently.
Yeah, she's not listening tonight.
Well, mine was 11.
We're also going to point out that Kaz's name is Michael, and it was his birthday, so...
Mine was 11, so we both missed it. I think Springfield next year, at October 10th, we'll probably have a commission meeting and invite everybody. Have a big question and answer. I think by then we'll have an open view of our big plan that we can put in place. This first year it's going to be hard to do anything except for planning due to funding and debris and trying to play catch up. But once we get the plans together, we've already went out for an RFP and RFQ for design build for the new city complex. We're working on streets, especially around the school areas, doing sidewalks. So next year, everybody's going to look at the plans versus seeing anything big right then. And then you're going to start seeing it the second, third year development. So I think next year, October 10th, everybody's going to be smiling with a new view and a new scenery and a new look. A couple years ago, we adopted crepe myrtles as our city tree. To me, if it goes over 10 foot, cut it down. So crepe myrtles do not go high, they go wide. So I think you're going to see an awful lot of them in Springfield.
And Lynnhaven?
I think a year from now, things will look immeasurably better. I think our parks will be cleaned up. I think that Florida Avenue will be flourishing with some new small businesses. We've got 2 already that have come in. And I think it's going to look like a place that people will want to stay and people will want to live. The second year, I think we'll be back in the middle of all of our projects that we have started and put on hold. We're going to have to rebuild all of our city buildings. If you saw the police annex and the chambers building where we meet, it completely was devastated. It blew up with us in it, so we were miraculous survivors, as many people were in buildings who stayed. So we're rebuilding. We're looking at rebuilding maybe in a different place. So our city is going to look a little bit the same, a little bit different. We are already talking about having many public hearings to have public input on what we want our city to look like as we're redesigning the center of it. And we're thinking about palm trees. That's been a lot of input that we've had because they seem to be the only ones that are standing with the crepe myrtles. We have some crepe myrtles standing as well. So I think Lynnhaven is going to be looking really good in a couple of years, and I'm very excited about it. Communications may look different. I think we might have a variety of communication companies, maybe not just one, for the next storm that would come about. I won't digress to my feelings about the 5G because you can see it on Facebook with the video that has almost 40,000 views about what I had to say about it. But some things are unforgivable, and watching a house burn to the ground while you can't use a telephone to call the fire department is one thing that I'll never forget. And I do have notes that you ask about. I actually have a book I'm writing, and it's going to be ready, I think, by March the 1st. And the title is The Warrior Angel, the hurricane that destroyed our town. So,
well, we can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So year one will be here very quickly because the last 2 months have been just a blink of an eye, it feels like. So year one, I think you will see a lot of improvements, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Year two, I think we'll have dramatic change. We shortly after the storm, we had a group of the leadership from Monroe County come to meet with us at the EOC. They had 14 months out of Hurricane Irma. They told us what their challenges were, their successes, their failures, and they kind of explained that they had a 10-year plan and they have compressed it. And I think we will all be under the same type of compression. We want to expedite the recovery process. This is not a 10-year thing. This is in 3 to 5 years. I want us to be completely done. Every community in the county will be running like a dragster, just tires spinning and smoke coming out the top. I want us to be wide open, and I firmly believe that with the task force and the leadership we have in this county, we'll be well on our way after year two to see dramatic improvements in this area.
Believe it or not, there are still people working Katrina. Some of these FEMA people say, I'm going back over to, I'm still doing Katrina. I'm looking at them going, what? It's astounding to me. And so, and they were talking 10 years. Our goal is 3 to 5. I mean, no doubt. And we pick up 100,000 cubic yards of debris in the city every year, Panama City. We've picked up 22 years worth in 7 weeks, and we've picked up about half. So we still have 2 more passes to make. We haven't even made one pass through the whole city yet. We got a lot of alleys, we got a lot of old areas, a lot of trees. So I could see in a year Bay Medical Center being back up online, okay? I can see us starting our public housing and to make sure that it's already starting to be built so that when these people come out of these FEMA trailers in 18 to 24 months, there's a place for them to go, okay? So very critical for us to expedite. We need velocity. We need to keep things moving. I realize it's Christmas and it's soon, but I mean, we cannot take our foot off the gas on all those issues because our people are suffering. So that's what I see in the next year and 2 years.
Mr. Husfeld, what will we see for the schools?
First, I think we need to get all those 7,400 linemen that came and let them go to the beach and celebrate with us, give them a discount or something. But, you know, I think we need to be grateful for all the people that came as quick as they did and did everything. I know he's serious about feeding them. Seriously, I mean, I think that we should, as a community, try to reach out to those people because they're just amazing. We all have stories about that. But I think we're going to be stronger. I think we're going to be at capacity with the schools that we have open. I think in August of 2019, will have rezoned, and our schools will be as close to full capacity as we can possibly. I seriously believe by the middle of January we're going to have most of our students back that are coming back, and that'll give us a bigger picture. I know that Merritt Brown, for example, they're going to have a portable city there. We've got, I believe, 35 to 40 portables they're going to have there that they're going to be using for the next couple of years until that whole school is renovated, and that's what I see in year two. We've already started some of the construction projects, the process of it, and many of them will be done within 6 to 12 months, and then we'll start the next round and the next round, and so that's where we're going, and I just believe we're going to be stronger for it.
Right. And in Parker?
Well, at the one-year anniversary, I'm hopeful that I'll start getting home delivery of your great newspaper again.
I've been waiting for this all night. Like, it was just a matter of time till you slipped that in that we have not been delivering your paper.
Tim Thompson said he was going to personally deliver it tomorrow, so we'll see if he really
We'll make
does
sure
that.
of it, right, Tim?
One thing is we've had a lot of development projects in the works, and just because of this storm, it doesn't mean that we're going to put those on the shelf or stop them. So we fully anticipate by the end of year one, we're going to have some housing developments that will be underway. One is a 152-unit townhome development down by the Tyndall Bridge, and that'll be online developed by year two. And there are a lot of infrastructure projects, and we forget we still have an infrastructure sales tax revenue that is designated for specific projects. So we fully intend to continue to work on our infrastructure, our roadways, and all those just to make the transportation and the infrastructure elements behind that sufficient, which you need that in order to develop more and more housing. So we're still going to just be focusing on all those development activities that we have on the books now.
We're very fortunate at the beach, but we don't take it lightly. This year we're going to have 5 hotels under construction at the same time. We've got 500 apartments that will open up this year that are already under construction and different phases of being complete. Our biggest fear right now is not having enough people to man businesses this year because of the housing problems we've got. Ours will clear up a lot quicker than yours, and I'm sorry, that's just the way it works. We are pretty well set through this thing, but everybody up here is going to require money. And every city and the county is looking at a way to get some money. Some of them are talking about coming and getting ours. I don't want them to do that. I think we need, as cities, to put in the other half-cent sales tax. It'll stop your ad valorem taxes from going up. It will have tourists paying for 40 to 50% of our recovery. It'll make things easier where our property taxes are, and it's quicker. We can have a vote in April and everybody gets some money and start putting things back together. And we have got, these guys are going to have a lot of money to make things work. Whether you like it or not, they're coming after money. And a sales tax, I think, that other half-cent that we're allowed to have is more equitable. And it comes from out of the cities, comes from other counties, in other states. We were very fortunate to have people from Oregon and Maine. I met power people from all over the United States. And when they come back to visit us now, we can charge them a little bit and help fix up. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with us being honest. The federal government's not going to be the answer to all our problems. We're going to have to pay to fix this. You can pay it on your ad valorem tax, or you can do it on a sales tax, and I'll work very hard at the beach to collect some. And we can do tourists. We can help ourselves. We've got to help ourselves.
And finally, but not least, Mexico Beach.
You know, I'm truly a glass half full mentality, but the reality is when you're asking a 1 to 2 year perspective of what our cities will look like, I'd feel more comfortable if I was thinking of 3 to 5 years. 1 to 2 years for Mexico Beach is, hopefully at our anniversary we'll be able to find all of our sewer mains and all of our lift stations. we only have 4 businesses operating now, and to think that we would escalate to a point of even half of what we had just isn't really reality. The buildings they were in are gone. And something that's unique to us, that's different, totally different from the rest of us sitting here tonight, is 75% of our residential properties in Mexico Beach are non-homesteaded properties. So when you think of that as far as rebuilding, your businesses, as all of us have said, is sort of the lifeblood of any community. I'm concerned, at least even at the 2-year, where will the customer base come from to support those of us that are trying to get back on our feet as businesses? Most of those second homeowners won't be as pressed to come back because that's not their home. It's their home away from home, but when they're living in a nice air-conditioned, heated house, that slab out there that they were looking at isn't very inviting, or a travel trailer that's sitting on it isn't very inviting. So the reality for us, quite frankly, in 2 years, restore all of our services. As far as our meeting room, Mayor Ralph said something about they were going to have a meeting. Well, we meet in our little office in our city hall that's just a little conference room because all of our buildings are destroyed. So we have, for a 2-year plan, as they say, we're going to have to chew that elephant little small bites at a time, and but we will not lose where we want to go. I just think we're going to be, our path to get there is going to take a little longer than some of the others.
Well, thank you so much. So we have reached the home stretch of our little forum here. So if you need some water, get some water. And we have 2 more questions. So one of the things that makes this forum unique is that we've actually been collecting questions live from the audience. And now we're going to hit you with some live questions that we've got as you guys have been speaking. The first one comes to us from Matthew Bays. So if you are in the audience, thank you for submitting this. What is Bay County doing to ensure funds go to the areas hardest hit by Hurricane Michael and not to grow the divide between the beach and the city? Anybody who wants to jump in?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes.
Griffith aren't divided.
I was going to say there's not any barbed wire on that bridge, as far as I know. I grew up on the beach and was schooled in town. I've been driving across that bridge my whole life. For I think a lot of people it's an obstacle, but it never has been. The county is committed to helping every one of these cities. This long-term recovery task force, I've asked Senator Gaynor's office and Representative Trumbull's office to pull every piece of legislation that is hurricane-related going back to 1992. We're going to figure out some creative ways to lean on our state and federal government to bring some money to this community, and all these people are going to benefit from that. We are not. This is not an island, or I should say, the county is not an island, and these cities are not islands. We are all in this together, and the county is committed to helping them out in any way we can.
I would add to what Mayor Thomas said earlier about the half-cent sales tax, that's already in place. One of the first things that I was just so thankful and felt so blessed about was the fact that the beach did not get the hard hit that the rest of the county did, because they were making money, and that half-cent sales tax has continued to roll in for all of us. And that's going to be crucial in our continuing. We've paved 23 miles of road. It's going to be great to help us to continue paving and to putting those pipes in, and that money's still coming, and it will be great to have another one. I think it's a great way to make it equitable, and for the people who visit here to help us to pay for what we need. So thank you to the beach. I'm glad y'all are standing.
Mayor Thomas, do you have anything?
No, we hear that question a lot. People look at us like we're carnies that just don't have wheels. My mother's 90 years old. My daddy was born in Millville. I mean, I don't know what you ever have to do. Some people just can't spell. It's not a moat. It's a bridge, which allows you to go there. During Hurricane Opal, my wife and I went to the Black Angus 3 or 4 nights a week to eat. I mean, we didn't have a place to eat, and I owned 2 of them. But This is one community. George, I remember the first day I was elected, Gaynor and I argue all the time, as y'all probably have noticed. And the first thing he did when I walked in the office down at the old, on Mulberry over there, is he stuck a Bay County hat off on me. He said, "You're going to have to remember you're not on the beach now." And I said, "You're the first person that thought of it." I mean, I have always had to come to town to get milk, bread, everything. And we're just regular old people out there. Some of us are a little smart alecky, but I'm going to tell you, we have a wonderful time at the beach. Life is good. I don't watch Facebook. Turn yours off and you'll be as happy as I am. That's good. We're going to come through this great. We're so blessed here. And I mean, we've got to act like we're blessed.
Before you leave that, there are 2 beaches in Bay County.
A good point. An excellent point. And for our last question, is there any consideration to regulation for skyrocketing housing and rent costs? And this question comes from Catherine Hudson. So, Catherine, if you're in the audience, thank you. Again, is there any consideration now or in the future of regulating the skyrocketing housing and rent costs for people who are trying to find a place or who have been displaced?
That's all market driven. I mean, you know, supply and demand. So hopefully we can get people that are reasonable doing things, but the market dictates what your prices are, and hopefully that we'll have and keep things that are available for people that are affordable at all levels. But right now, I know that the price of getting a roof done has gone up considerably. When it was, you know, $275 to $300 a square, and there's people out there, you know, charging $500 a square. It's tough. And there are people that are probably going to wait a little bit to go ahead and get some things done because of the prices, which is unfortunate. I don't want to get to a point in the city that I've got to code enforce somebody because they're not fixing something, because they can't fix it because their insurance isn't enough, because the prices are too high. So that's a dilemma we're going to have to deal with.
And builders are rational thinkers. The ones that have talked about single-family homes in our area know what the price point is that they need to get to. Otherwise, they're not going to build it. So I'm not sure that you're going to see some kind of irrational pricing of elements because they need to sell their product. And if they're going to sell it, there's a price point that people will buy it at.
And not only build. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
If we tried to set those prices, you'd kill us. So I mean, that's not a question that you didn't already know.
Now, if people are price gouging, there are avenues to address that. But market drives and dictates. Supply and demand is just.
And those are not the only prices that we're noticing, and I've been trying to figure this one out, and maybe someone else can help me with it, but I was in Jacksonville 2 weeks ago, and regular gas was $2.15, and here it's $2.69, and I can find no rational explanation for that regardless of the explanations I've been told. So.
Okay. Excuse me, God, I've never been that quiet that long in my life. Almost lost my voice, but we did want to thank everybody for coming. I've got one question left, but I did want to point out the quiet man that introduced us and got us going this evening. I think he forgot to introduce himself. That is our boss, Tim Thompson. He's the publisher of the News Herald and the Daily News, and Tim, we take care of it.
I don't need the microphone for this, but what I would really like to know is the cumulative hours that this team here has booked over the last 2 months. I think we'll forever be indebted to them for the sacrifices that they made, knowing what kind of contributions they've all made for as leaders of our cities and our county. So hats off to what y'all brought.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask was, this was one of the simpler questions that came in. And I made it a little bit more complicated so it wouldn't sound quite as mean. But what somebody wanted to know is, what specifically do each of you plan to do that you want to happen in your city, in the unincorporated area with the schools, that they can see, that's tangible, that's visible, that they can see as a mark of progress. Once we get beyond removing the debris piles, we can see that, we can see it gone, and then it's going to look like nothing's going on. There's a fear sometimes with these things that people get up, we come to a forum like this, everybody says the right thing, everybody goes home, and then the things that were talked about don't necessarily get done. So what should people look for in your areas as signs of progress as we move forward so that they know things are actually happening? And we'll go, you know what, we'll go right to left this time.
Two things. One, we need support to build our pier. Our pier was lost. Pier is the identity of our city. It represents economic value to us. It tells people we're a fishing community. We need support from the county. We need support from FEMA. We need support from the state to get money to rebuild our pier. Second thing we need to do is clear our waterways. Our canal is full of debris. We need people to come back, bring their boats back. That's an identity of who we are, and it's the two most valuable things that we could show that we're back in business.
Cleanup to me is what we're all looking at today, but Panama City Beach started this pretty seriously a couple of years ago, cleaning up. And we put in garbage. We're the only city in Bay County that didn't have garbage. We put that in last week. We have passed more code things to clean up. And I know those things are what make people mad. You mess with their children or their money, and they're mad. And it's going to cost people money to clean up. But our property values will go up. Our neighbors will go up. The people that live in nicer places, clean places, and take care of their places, I think makes your community a little stronger. And our city, I think, is committed to do that, and I hope we can help everybody. We've just been so lucky out there. I want us to do whatever we can do to people, but for me, I'm going to keep pushing to clean up. I know everybody's had damage. On the way in here tonight, and I notice it every time I pass by some chain restaurants that are closed, some of them open, drugstores, I'm talking about in town, and all around their landscaping and all in their parking lots, trash. People are not proud of where they live, in my opinion. We've got trash everywhere, but on our property, we ought to take care of that. Government should not. I've seen stuff stuck out by the road. Government asks for them to separate it because it costs you. These guys are paying so much more to get debris hauled off because they're having to go through it, separate it. It doesn't take 5 minutes longer to help make this community better, and I think that's what we're going to try to do on the other side of the bridge, and I hope everybody does. All of us will be better, I think, when we do things together.
We want to continue our cleanup efforts as well, not just the debris. As Mike said, where people just aren't taking pride in their locations, and it's strewn all over the place. So that's a code enforcement issue as far as I'm concerned. But just getting stop signs back up so people know there's a four-way stop there and not just a two-way, and people come roaring through. Street signs, so we know what street we're actually on. And then continuing with the effort toward allowing people to rebuild their homes by loosening our guidelines and letting them put their campers or RVs in their front yard while they do that, so that by the time we come around to the next anniversary, you're going to see a lot of new houses that are being lived in.
For us, it's really school start times and getting schools back to their home campuses. This split session it's what bothers me more than anything else we're doing. It's just it's crazy, and I worry about the students at night, the middle school students getting home, and the dangers it poses. And so our goal, we believe, we had a meeting again today, we believe January 14th, everybody that can be will be back on their campus, and we'll be back to a normal regular day for most students, and that's just going to bring a peace of mind to almost everyone. And so, I mean, that's kind of quick for us. I know Griff said 60 days, and we've been about 63 days, but we really, are looking forward to January 14th. I'm not one to want to get through time real quick, but I think just for the safety and well-being of all our middle school students, I really want to get to that point, and that's where we're going to look forward to. I think that's going to be a big change when everybody has a regular schedule in the school system.
We still got 50% of the debris to pick up, but the big question has been in the city of Panama City for the last 8 years, what about the marina?
I'll solve that, dude.
Okay? And so I think for us, and I made this comment in a meeting, you probably have it on tape last year, because people were saying, well, what are we going to do with our boats while you're renovating it? What can we do? And I said, well, what about if this was like Harvey and we had a hurricane? You'd have to move your boat, wouldn't you? People kind of looked at me. Well, guess what? A lot of the demolition's already been done. So now it's going to be up to us to formulate a plan and to do something. So that's one of the things that you're going to see now that's going to escalate. We're still going to get more public input, but that'll escalate.
I would say the county is going to do everything we can to foster an environment for small business to prosper. We've all heard the discussions about money, and so I'm going to try to put it into perspective real quickly for people. Everything that we're doing right now, we're paying up front, all these cities. So our debris removal, we've removed in the unincorporated area 4.7 million cubic yards of debris. We estimate that bill is going to be $200 million. That's debris. We probably will be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million in expenses for the county. $400 million. But we'll be responsible for 12.5% of that. So we're looking at huge financial issues. And I assure you, and I think I can speak for the other 4 guys I work with up here at this commission, we're going to do everything we can to do it right. We're going to do everything we can that we don't put a burden on the people of Bay County to have to shoulder that. It's not going to be comfortable, but we're going to figure out ways to do it. We have 600 plus employees in Bay County, 400 plus had damage to their homes. We're committed to our employees, we're committed to our citizens, and we're going to do everything we can in the near and long term to make it very, very easy to get back on your feet in Bay County. And that's, I believe when I say that, I can speak for my 4 other guys in there in agreement with that as well. So.
I'm just ending my 4-year term, the first term as mayor in the next month or so, and this is not how I pictured it ending. There were so many things accomplished, so many things beautiful in Lynnhaven, and so what I would see a year from now and looking into the future is I hope that my residents in the city feel normal. I hope that we've established a feeling of normalcy in the city so that people aren't talking about the storm anymore. They're talking about their lives and what they're doing every day. I would also hope that what we established to help our people, the Hurricane Relief Fund, that it will be such a huge amount of money that we can expand and help a lot of the county that's around us as well. We've been putting cash money into the hands of our residents, and the purpose for that is to help them to rebuild their homes. So today I was out riding around, as I'm kind of, people make fun of me now on the golf cart riding around Lynnhaven, but I hear the sound of nails and the automatic, I almost think people are shooting at me sometimes. I want to duck, but I hear the sound of that rat-a-tat-tat of the nails going in the roof. People are rebuilding their homes in Lynnhaven. So if we can feel normal, and people aren't talking about Hurricane Michael, and they're talking about the future and what they're going to do this Saturday and taking their boat out and having a picnic in the park, then I'm going to feel really good about Lynnhaven in 12 months. So,
the city of Springfield, we're going to be jumping in, starting our community all over again. We've got a good example. Last year we did a $1.3 million sewer program. We were right at the point of releasing bids for a $6.9 million. Totally redoing all of our lift stations, either replacing or rehabbing. We're going to release that next week and get back to normal. We want to protect our citizens. There's 2 things that is really dear to my heart. FEMA trailers. A lot of folks do not realize the 18-month period for a FEMA trailer started October 10th. Here we are, 2 months later, your time's going down. Now, we can get a 6-month extension on that. But, I mean, we've already lost 2 months. We're looking at 3 months by the time Christmas is over. That's the benefit that the folks ought to be looking at. It's not when they put it on your property, it's when the event happened is your start time. I would like to put a wager against the media. We need to keep it on front page, on the front of the headline or TV. Fraud. Every day I'm talking to seniors, I'm talking to elderly, I'm talking to the sick. I paid a contractor to come in and do this. Guess what? The contractor's a leech. They take half the money, they're gone. You know, we need, and Bay County stepped up hard on it, all the police officers or forces have, but we need to protect our neighbors. If they're seniors, don't let them sign a contract. Don't let them give money up front, because they're just in here taking it and go. And it's really hurting us. And that for a community that the residents don't have the funds, it's really bad, because we talked to a lady today who just gave $6,000 for a roof. And she's has no idea where the roof went, and that was 3 weeks ago. So, you know, we need to keep that up front to protect all the citizens in Bay County, Jackson County. I mean, it wasn't just a Bay County event, it was a Florida Panhandle event. But we're going to move forward and smile as we go.
Okay, as far as tangible things that citizens should be able to see to tell that the city is moving forward. You know, hopefully we'll have businesses reopening, we'll have housing being built. But I think one of the things that's going to be very important to the city is our parks. And citizens should be able to see those parks. We've already done some major cleanup in the parks. You know, we were able to, one of our, you know, we've got the aircraft from Tyndall Air Force Base. One of those in Veterans Park was completely flipped upside down from the hurricane. But we were able to, with the help of Gulf Wrecker, they got it back upright on its pad. But our insurance fund should help us to get that one, also the one that is at our Arts and Conference Center. Insurance is going to help us get those completely repaired so that they are back in the shape that they need to be in. We want to have our ballparks. You know, we have a big opening day for Little League. It's important that we have those things ready so when the kids are ready to play, those fields are ready for them, the soccer fields and the ball fields. So I think that's going to be what's tangible in Callaway. You'll see how the parks are being cleaned up the rest of the way, you know, and things are being put in place for the community to use those parks again. I think that's important. I think that's some of the tangible that you will be able to see.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to let the audience know, these folks up here, we didn't have to make a second call to any of them. We got them on the first call, and it was immediate, yes, we'll do that. The enthusiasm was really cool. So thank all of y'all for taking time out of your night, as busy as it's been, to come down here and do this with us. I want to thank the crowd. I think the reason they were also eager to come is because they knew y'all were eager to get answers, and we're not going to pretend that you all got all the answers that you needed tonight. This was a 2-hour deal. We want you, if you had a question that didn't get answered, something that's really important to you that didn't get addressed because we were under time constraints, we have the They Asked, We Answered on our website. Use that. We follow that religiously, I dare say. We are looking at that multiple times daily. It is what we feed off of. If you put questions in there, we are going to get answers for them, and we may do this again. The response from you folks was awesome. It filled up so quickly with people registering. We just want to thank you, and I dare say this was the quietest, best behaved crowd I've ever been around. And on behalf of Mike Thomas, I will give all of you an open invite to Panama City Beach Council meetings.
Thank y'all for coming.